All right. Afternoon, everyone. I've met a lot of you at this point, but for those who I haven't, my name's Kyle Ferris. I'm Assistant Director within the Center for Career Engagement for the PhD and Postdoc career community. May, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am May, and very nice to see everybody here as well. I'm the associate director. I always say, Kyle is going to lead today's workshop, but the success of the workshop is not entirely dependent on him. It's actually dependent on every one of us. So I hope everybody stay engaged, participate as much as possible. And because what you're going to learn is not only the content from the workshop, how you participate is also part of the design here. So I look forward to working with you all in this workshop.
All right. So there is a paper check-in going around, a couple of them actually, so you can scan that or scan this. This is so that you can get a copy of the slides afterward, so we can send it to you. Um, I know a couple of people had trouble checking in. If you did, please write down your name and your email address on one of the QR codes, and then I'll be able to enter you after the event. Okay? Anyone still need this? Are we good? Okay, great. So our learning outcomes today, the things that we hope that you will get out of this networking workshop is that you'll learn the right mindset for networking so it feels less intimidating and more enjoyable. You'll gain practical tips on how to approach the right people, start conversations, share your experiences, and build meaningful relationships, and explore effective strategies for building your network and leveraging it to support your professional development. We will start with a little introduction activity. And then we will talk about why networking is important, and then get into the bulk of the workshop, which will be how to network, along with some just networking kind of tips and advice. And we will have a Q&A at the end and a wrap up. And then, as many of you may have seen, we're ending this workshop a little bit earlier than we normally do so that we can move into an actual holiday networking session. So we hope you will stick around to be able to practice some of the things that we discussed during this workshop. And if at any point during the workshop you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand, speak up. More than happy to, discuss as we go along. All right, so I'm not going to do the full piece of this. I'm just going to ask, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the term networking? Just shout it out. Stressful. What was that? Conference? Awesome. Relationship? Mentoring? Conversation? Reach out? Career development? Any others that are not as stressful was the first start? Any others that are maybe a little bit less directly positive? Hmm? Essential. Yeah, very true. Yeah, I like these words. We've got relationship, career development, stressful, definitely can be stressful. Um, it is essential in today's world, which we will kind of talk about here. Um, some of the words that I would get, I think you all are, as PhD and postdocs, are probably a little bit more accustomed to these things, maybe a little bit more mature. When I used to do a similar workshop for undergraduates, and I would ask that question, their response would basically be, it would be a lot of negative things. It would be a lot of like scary kinds of things. And hopefully, even if it is a little bit daunting, we can make it a little bit less so in the course of this workshop. So let's talk about why networking is important. And I know that this is somewhat small for folks at the back. Uh, but generally speaking, if we're thinking about the modern job market, any given job application is probably going to get at least 100 or more applications. So tons and tons of applications for a single position. Around 55 to 75% of companies are using applicant tracking systems. That means they're using automated AI programs to sort through resumes and cover letters before a human being ever sees one. About 50% of jobs are never even publicly posted. There's no like law that says jobs have to be posted. Government jobs do. Government, like federal and state government jobs, need to be posted. And so, like, universities have to post jobs. But outside of that, if we're talking about like private industry and stuff, there's no requirement to post positions. And something like 70% of jobs are filled through some kind of connection, some kind of relationship or networking kind of activity, even if it's not thought of in the traditional networking kind of sense. So you can get a job without networking, but it is going to be significantly harder. It's going to take longer, and you're not going to become as aware of all of the opportunities out there because you're not tapping into the hidden job market. May, do you want to talk a little bit about this? This is another way of thinking about networking that's not just job specific, but like career inclusive.
Yeah. When I did my PhD, I thought my performance determines my career success. And after I went to work in the industry, I heard this theory called pie theory. And it contains three components that are very important for our career success. P stands for performance. And research shows that even though that is very important, that is foundation, it only contributes to 10% of your career success. And more importantly, is the second part, image, is how you show up in front of others, your reputation, your image, very important. And then the third one is E, exposure, is how many people actually know you. And after I heard about the pie theory, that fundamentally affected how I am going to approach my work. Of course, I'm still going to do a great job in my research, in my performance, because that is still the foundation. But I become more proactive in paying attention to see what type of image I'm going to create in front of others. How am I going to show up each time when I meet a new person or meet a colleague? And how many people should I make myself to be known of? That means that I may need to intentionally set up one-to-one meeting to introduce myself to others, to let more people know about myself. That means maybe I should be more intentional to attend networking events so that more people at least know there is a me. So that's why I'm really passionate about to share this pie theory with you.
And the quick kind of logic of networking, like whether or not, it makes the intuitive kind of sense, like think about it putting yourself in the space of a hiring manager. Hiring managers don't like know everyone, right? They don't know all of the applicants that are coming in. And no matter who they pick, there's an element of risk involved in the process. There's an uncertainty as a part of it. So hiring managers want to do whatever they can to uh, minimize that risk. And whether or not it is completely accurate or logical, knowing someone, at least psychologically, makes them feel a little bit better about the risk that they're taking. They feel like it's more of a known quantity. So I like this term, this saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, which is maybe a little more adversarial than networking actually is. But the point remains that there is comfort in actually knowing the person, even if it's tangentially. So I want to go through some common networking myths and facts. So networking means asking for jobs. That's not true at all. In fact, we discourage you from asking for jobs when you're networking. It's manipulative or inauthentic. No, it really shouldn't be. In order for networking to be truly successful, it should be authentic. It should be about connections based off of shared interests or mutual value and experience. Only for extroverts or schmoozers. That is not necessarily the case at all. This is one where I think that the way that you network can depend a lot. Networking maybe is sometimes a little more challenging for folks like myself who are more introverted. If it's in like a massive, 400 person gala where they say go network and it's like tons and tons and tons of people. But networking can take place in small groups or one-on-one just as much as it can within large situations. The reality is that, like we said, Networking allows you access to hidden opportunities that you may not learn about otherwise. It also helps you learn more accurately what the value of your transferable skills are, what you're bringing to the table, and what you can contribute to a company and what companies are looking for. And at the end of the day, people want to help. Most people love giving advice, love being able to offer some assistance to other folks who, are in a different place in their careers. Um, I mean, most of you here have probably mentored a younger graduate student or an undergraduate student or another postdoc. Like you do that most of the time, I would hope, because you genuinely want to help someone else succeed. People like seeing other people succeed, and the same will be true of you. You're not like an exception to the rule. People want you to succeed as well. So what is networking really? Networking is first and foremost information exchange. It is an opportunity to learn about opportunities that may be out there, but also, again, about strategies, about processes, about what it is that companies are looking for and what you are able to bring to the table. And it is a continuous career tool. Networking is most beneficial when it's something that you kind of partake in continuously, not necessarily just something that you do when you need to get a job. It is also a tool for geometric growth. So your network expands exponentially. Each new connection that you make, you potentially gain access to that person's connections as well. So you ask one person for, two recommendations, and you ask each of those people for two more recommendations. And you set off a chain of exponential growth where you are then in contact with tons and tons of people. And it is fundamentally reciprocal. So networking relationships go both ways. When you're doing an informational interview, that might be a little bit more tilted in the sense that you are asking for help, learning about a job, learning about a career, getting information about an industry. But there might be a time down the line when that person needs help on a project, or maybe they are now looking for a job and you're in a position to refer them. So it's not just, and that's where I think folks get worried about it being a hyper transactional kind of interaction, and it's not. It is a reciprocal relationship where there is give and take. Some key networking mindsets and attitudes that we want you to keep to try to adopt. First is curiosity. Networking doesn't work, like no social interaction really works well without some kind of curiosity, without a desire to learn, without a desire to experience, to gain new information. Cultivate curiosity. You all are already, PhDs and postdocs and researchers. Like curiosity should be something that you have already kind of tried to cultivate. So build that into not just like the research that you're doing, but the interactions that you're having with other people. A bias to action. What that means is that you should be ready to take advantage of opportunities when they come along. You should be willing to take action quickly. So if, for example, we're going to talk about elevator pitches later, and we joke about the elevator pitch being kind of, a silly thing. I had a student once walk onto an elevator and realize that the person next to them was a scholar who they had made was like they were citing for most of their research. And this was not a place they expected to find them. This was like an undergraduate research conference. This was a different kind of space. But he's like, "Oh, this is a person I cite a lot." And he just immediately turned and was like, "Hey," and introduced himself and started talking about his work. The point is like you can hesitate, right? You can see that and you can go like, "Oh my God, this person's with me," and the elevator's done and we're out. I've done that myself. Networking works best when you have that biased action that means you take advantage of the opportunities that land in front of you. Follow through. That's basically like that's pretty self-explanatory, but do what you say you're going to do. If you commit to doing something, whether it's sending someone a follow-up message or sending someone a resume or saying that you will apply to a particular job, follow through on it. Do the thing you say you're going to do because that establishes credibility. And then finally, persistence. Not every conversation, not every interaction you have with another person is going to lead somewhere. Some conversations are just, okay, we had a chat, didn't click, didn't really maybe gain a ton out of it. that's okay. Networking is about continuing to follow kind of the path, essentially, to track down opportunities and to find the information, find the things that you don't know. So that's our mindsets. Let's talk about how to network effectively. Some key strategies, and we're going to go through all of these. Know your goals and what you want to get out of networking. There's not one thing that like networking can be about. There's a whole variety of things that you can potentially get out of networking. Decide who you want to network with. The who matters a lot as well. Actually make the connections and expand your network. We'll talk about how to do that. Learn how to introduce yourself, and then learn how to effectively leverage your network. So let's go through these. Goals. There are a lot of things that we could get out of networking. We most typically think about it as like, I want to network so that I can get a job. That's the most common kind of one. But networking can do a lot of other stuff as well. It can, for example, you can help you find people to partner with on your research projects. There's very little research that gets done in a complete vacuum, even in some of the more siloed humanities areas. We all need research collaborators. We all need resources to further our research and our work. So networking is an excellent way to develop some of those kinds of connections. It's an excellent way to start thinking about your next steps in your career, not necessarily like finding the jobs, but learning what the pathways through certain careers are or learning what certain industries are like. So before you even get to the stage of like, I'm going to apply for certain kinds of jobs, you can network to find out, is this the kind of job I would even want to apply to? What does this person's day in, day out look like? Would I want to be in the same kind of position? So we want to think about very clearly about what it is that we want to get out of the networking environment. And if it's very transactional, if it is like, I just want to get a job, there are environments where that is more the purpose of networking. Like job fairs are not necessarily about having deep, meaningful conversations with a lot of people. Job fairs are a lot more about like, this company wants to hire someone. I would like to be hired. Would this make sense? So there is room for those as well. But you wouldn't necessarily want to approach a one-on-one conversation with that attitude because that is going to feel very transactional. It's going to feel very inauthentic with the person that you're talking to. Um, yeah. So we're going to do our first reflection activity here. We're going to take 5, 10 minutes. I want you to think about right now where you're at. What do you want to get out of networking? What could you benefit from right now in working on in expanding your networking activities? All right. So 5, 10 minutes, take some time, write a little bit, reflect. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. May and I can come around.
That, wow. not many people may want to do networking when they are in the job search process. When we reflect, what do you want to get out of networking for that purpose? You also want to elaborate a little bit more. What specific things you are looking for their help during the job search process? And then ask deeper question, deeper and deeper, and will help you to understand your why and help you to determine your downstream strategy.
Is anyone willing to share some of their current goals? Yeah.
So complicated for how useful is to communicate, but I want to network in order to actually build a reputation with a lot of the people that are in my field.
Yeah.
Something that, and to some extent, I also want to help develop what it would take in order to meet a certain long-term goal of mine.
Mm.
Jobs are good for a short term, but one goal I had in mind was to learn Mandarin and possibly look for job opportunities in Taiwan. I am not proficient in Mandarin, so it would be an investment.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, exposure, very important. It's very difficult to, well, we talk about professional reputation. People have to know what you've done in order for you to have a professional reputation. So makes total sense. And yeah, language acquisition doesn't really happen in a vacuum, right? Not like proper language acquisition, but then also potentially transferring to a different area of a job market. Having connections would be very important for that. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Know if I want to stay in BPO or do I want to go industry. So I'm talking about this in a scenario that I'm talking to someone in the industry hoping to gain some information for my own career exploration. So I think I have two major goals. One is that I'm just curious about how do they land on their current job that if they think that the job opportunity fully utilize their skill set, or how do they find their niche in a particular kind of industry role. But more practically, I think my goal is to also learn about what do they do to prepare themselves for these type of roles, and also potentially learn about the opportunities that they know that could recommend me to like maybe connect to other people, or things that we can do to make our toolkit work.
That's great. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, those are really insightful questions too. Understanding not just like the day-to-day, obviously, but understanding some of those deeper things of like, are they getting to use their skills? You know, do they feel valued in the environment? Fantastic. Did I?
Knowing, I just want to comment here. Knowing, it's really like what you want is then you know and then you can get the see enjoy the success. If we just want to think very general, oh, I want networking without thinking deeply, like what I want to get out of networking, then you don't know where to start. I also want to comment this student, she said she just enjoy meeting new people, and that is networking. And that's true. That's kind of more reactive, like spontaneous networking. And here we are more thinking about proactive networking. Start with why, and then you identify people to that with. And we did both to establish our professional.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I think those are fantastic goals. I'll share right now where I'm at within my career and talk a little bit about that more. I'm particularly interested in networking for the purpose of professional development. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not going to be looking for a job for a while. So I'm thinking about how do I build up my skills and build up my resources for that eventual kind of next stage. And so I'm really trying to think in those sorts of terms, and how can I build a network that supports me in that process? All right. So, thought about why we're networking. So now it's a question of who we want to meet. There's lots and lots of people we can reach out to, and this is one of the first mistakes I see students make when I say we need to start networking. They pull up on LinkedIn, they see 5,000 search results, they panic, and they just start sending out like emails to or messages to people just willy-nilly, which is perfectly understandable. But networking in this kind of form should be very targeted. We should have a very strong sense of who is going to help us meet those goals. So some of the people that we might reach out to, we could reach out to CEOs or senior leaders within organizations and companies. The pros on that is that those are folks who have a lot of institutional and organizational knowledge. They have a lot of connections, and a lot of times they're very influential. From a cons perspective, they're very busy, so it can be difficult to get on their schedule. They are not always directly involved in hiring. And my experience is that once you get to a certain level of leadership, you get people with very strong personalities, which can be good, can be not always the most useful kind of space if you don't match their particular kind of personality. We have our middle managers, who are the folks who are kind of on the ground. They bridge the gap a lot, and they're the ones who are more likely to be in charge of the hiring process and typically have strong professional networks. The downside on that is that they often have less authority, may not be as in on the bigger picture, and are often very stressed. Middle managers are usually the most stressed people in the organizations. Early career professionals are the ones with the most recent experience on the job market. So they've been where you are more recently. They know the day to day a little bit better. And there tends to be a decent bit of enthusiasm from early career folks to meet with, recent or upcoming graduates. The downside on that is that they rarely have hiring authority. Often their networks are a bit smaller and they don't have quite as much experience within the field or industry. So everyone has kind of pros and cons. And then we wanted to put in here and just emphasize like friends and family can also be considered like networking connections. I've met lots of people who got jobs or learned about opportunities because a friend of the family told them like, "Oh, I've got a friend of a friend." We go like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon towards a job basically, and eventually find someone who does have something. But families are the most supportive people typically, hopefully. Hopefully our families are all very supportive of us. And so they're the ones who might be the most willing to go that extra mile for us and forge that extra kind of connection if they happen to know someone in a relevant kind of area. Obviously, not every friend or family is going to, so it's not always going to be the most practical space to go, but don't count out the folks who are around you in your personal lives as well. And so you think about like matching up, thinking about goals, how they might match up to some of these kinds of things. So your goals, I'm sorry, what was your name? Yeah, yeah. Ine. So like your goals might be well matched with an early career professional because they can talk a little bit more about that real in-depth kind of piece. Whereas Daniel, your goals might be more accommodated by middle managers who are in more hiring places or senior leaders to think about that kind of big picture of your career long term. So that's our next little activity here. So take another few minutes and think about who would be the most valuable for you to connect with. Who do you want to talk to? All right. Anyone else get the hot chocolate so far?
Mhm.
That is sweet. I make at home and I do like the dark chocolate, like that is very sweet. Mm. I'm gonna be hopping the rest of the evening.
Yeah, I guess at this point you can think of kind of the what do you call like kind of the ICP, the ideal customer for profile, ideal network profile. What are the features they are having? It doesn't have to be a specific person because later we will talk about where you can find those people. But you want to kind of list some of the features they are having, and then it help you to know who specifically you want to reach out later. And if you can identify specific people, that's perfectly good.
All right. Anyone ready to share? I can share mine real quick, right? So, like I said, I'm thinking about, how to develop professional skills, competencies right now. One of the big focuses for me on networking lately has been meeting people at WashU in similar kind of similar roles, similar levels, in their current kind of career, because I want to learn, but people who have been at like WashU for longer, because a big part of professional success is understanding the organizational context that you're in. I'm relatively new to WashU, so I want to learn more about the history, the culture, the context of WashU so that I can be successful here and understand how things kind of work. So that's been my focus within my networking over the past 6, 7 months. Yes.
Can share. So just a little bit background. So right now, like I'm a postdoc at campus. So my current, focus will be definitely to such a job.
Yeah.
So it is not because it is the need of an hour, but like in this current climate, we all know that many labs are losing funding. So first, definitely I would, since I'm an international scholar, first I would definitely want to reach out to two people, the OISS or maybe the international community who know the know-hows of how you can navigate when you're on your visa and you have some, funding situations in your lab. And the second person whom I really wanted to reach out is the career coach, because during my postdoc journey, I tried to grab all the components which are kind of needed based on my previous networking cohort that, okay, you need to grab this skill, this is transferable or this is soft skill. So I think I have that thing. Now I really need someone who can, fix things there. Like, the components I have, and then, how I can leverage them at best to search my next job.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm currently thinking about still mostly possible and because thing I'm thinking about in a different field. Like I don't wanna do experiments anymore. More of an analytical stuff. So I might wanna reach out to a training career, like maybe a postdoc or like young professor who also has switched their field, like from PhD to postdoc.
Yeah, that's excellent.
How and why?
Get a sense of what the strategies were and whether that applied, whether you can take something away from that. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
So in my case, I am a first year PhD in economics student. So I am mostly interested in networking because of learning pathways to guide the decisions that I have to do after the second year, like choosing the courses, which areas to focus the research. So I believe that I should network mostly with 6-year students who are going to the market, or maybe some professors that are like starting the careers, or people who are like just starting in the industry.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Saw your hand. Yeah.
So I'm a second year PhD student, and my reason for networking is basically exposure to build a reputation and also to kind of know the needed skill for the job markets like in the future. So I think the people that I would be ideal for me to network with would be the senior leaders in the field of my research to kind of know more about the field and also maybe early career people to know the kind of skills they were able to gather during their PhD if I can build that kind of skills to fit into the roles that they are pursuing.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for sharing. Oh, yeah, please.
Leaders
Yeah,
to find out what the hidden jobs.
yeah,
Also maybe get their internal referral or recommendation letters, because I think the letters from them are the most powerful ones. But the problem is that it's very hard to stay connected with the field. You can let them know you, but after that, after one meeting, they normally don't reply any email.
it can be a little bit challenging. We'll talk a little bit about that, the maintaining the connection piece. And that is one of the drawbacks trying to network with senior leaders too, is that they often are very, yeah, you might get that initial meeting. It's hard to develop a real deep relationship with them unless you really like connect very well. They're the folks out there who will. And you almost might think about starting at what we would call, I don't know if this makes any sense, like senior leaders, but in smaller contexts, smaller organizations. Sometimes those folks are maybe they still have that kind of high level understanding of the industry, but without, the CEO of a smaller startup is more likely to be able to respond to you than the CEO of Bear, right? So, you think about kind of scale and where you can get at some of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. There is also kind of position. If we are fresh PhDs, maybe the majority of network could be the earlier professional ones, early entry level professionals. And then as we grow in our career, maybe we have a higher percentage who are in the middle stage managers. And then as we continue to grow and we become a director or a head of a department, then a larger percentage of our network be more like the seniors, executives. So there is different percentage, and the percentage is also dynamic. So we want to keep that in mind as well. We don't want to, even though as fresh PhDs, even though we know the executives have a higher decision power, we don't want to invest all of our energy to network with those kind of people. We need to diversify our portfolio.
All right. So places where you can build your network. Obviously, your department and campus resources are excellent starting places. Your classmates, the other centers here on campus, great beginning stage, because they're folks that you're around all the time. Conferences and professional societies are really phenomenal places, especially for those of you who are either, well, actually for all of you, right? But I think for early PhDs too, it's a great place to begin learning and meeting different kinds of people. Um, LinkedIn and social media. LinkedIn is the most obvious one, but I have seen professional kind of like informal groupings pop up across other social media platforms. Um, about not quite 10 years ago, my field in higher ed had a huge population of folks that were on Twitter. It was called like Student Affairs Twitter. And it wasn't for like sharing personal stuff. It was all about a space for us to be able to discuss our personal interests, our careers, the broader landscape of higher ed. I met some fantastic people through that at the time. And then obviously CCE resources, events like this one, connections that you can make through us are great places to be able to begin that networking process as well. We really recommend, again, start building these resources now, even if you're not looking for a job right away. I'll share a friend of mine who has never had a problem getting a job or a promotion is probably the best LinkedIn like networker I've ever kind of seen. What he really likes to do is that anytime his team accomplishes something, he will post about it on LinkedIn, not about himself. He posts about his colleagues or his employees and the work that they did. And it's this interesting thing where he is highlighting their work and their contributions, but it also elevates his own profile because it makes him, stand out. It creates positive associations with him, and it shows him off as kind of a good colleague and a good boss. So that kind of stuff, the early things, he does that all the time. He doesn't just do that when he's searching for a job. But then anytime he's been looking for a job, it's been like he's not looking, he's like, okay, I want a new job and one's here. It's kind of I get a little jealous, but but he's really good at it. So just like a sample email introduction that you could send through LinkedIn, through email, through WashU Connects, whatever the case may be. Um, this sample kind of thing, this intro email doesn't need to be long. You can just say, "Hello, Doctor, Mr., Mrs., whatever their name is. My name is. I'm a PhD student, postdoc at Washington University in St. Louis, and I'm studying." And you'll give like a little maybe overview of your research or your background. I found your profile on whatever site, and I wanted to see if you'd be willing to meet with me to talk about your career in industry. I'm interested in learning about or pursuing a career in this field. I'd love to learn more about it from someone with experience. Please let me know what your availability looks like. Thank you very much for your time. Very brief, very relatively to the point. And this is just kind of a sample for a traditional informational interview. If you were looking for a research collaborator, you might give a little bit more detail about your research and what you've done and what you could contribute to a potential project. This could be a follow-up email to someone that you met at a conference to continue the conversation. Whatever the case kind of is, it doesn't have to be a super daunting kind of thing. There's not like a weird archaic formula that goes into these networking emails. Brief, relatively brief to the point and descriptive. Trickier one I think people will struggle with sometimes is the in-person introductions, right? The elevator pitch. This is the when you're first meeting someone. My recommendation is to follow this basic kind of formula. Who you are, what you've done, and what you want to do from a professional perspective. So not like, you know, my name is Kyle, I love the color green, and I really want to become an artist someday or something. Like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like professional. So here's what mine looks like right now. My name is Kyle Ferris. I'm Assistant Director of Career Readiness for PhDs and Postdocs at Washington University in St. Louis. I've worked in student services for over 15 years and have a PhD in higher adult and lifelong education. I'm looking for supplemental opportunities to increase my leadership experience and skills, especially as it relates to personnel management. Relatively brief, high level, but it gets the conversation started. be mindful of our time here, but I want to give at least a little bit of time for you all to begin drafting at least or brainstorming your elevator pitch. All right. So I'll put it back up here up on this. So who you are, what you've done, what you want to do. And think about it in the context of the goals that you defined and the people that you would like to network with. How would you introduce yourself to them? All right, I hate to cut us short, but I do want to make sure we've got plenty of time at the end for questions and stuff. So I'm going to wrap up my little section of this here. Let's talk briefly about during the meeting, like if you're doing an informational kind of interview. Make sure you're on time to the meeting. Dress well. Business casual is a good kind of default to run to, and behave professionally. Ask good questions. Things like, what does your day-to-day routine look like? What do you most like about your work? What's the most challenging part? How do you find your current job? What are the best strategies for finding jobs? What would make me a strong candidate? In particular, if it's been a good conversation, can you suggest other people I should meet to learn more? You're tapping into their network and expanding yours by doing that. Do not ask if they are hiring. Statistically, the answer is no. And if they are and they like you, they will tell you. So that's not a question you need to ask. Yeah. So that's a different one. And I'm glad you asked that. The version of the question, yeah. I encourage if it's been a good conversation, you can ask people, do they know of any opportunities? Not necessarily at their company, but just in general, do they know of any opportunities? Because that's different than like, do you have a job, which is a quick kind of yes or no kind of question. but do you know of any opportunities causes them to kind of activate their own thinking process and begin thinking about like, oh, do these other companies, does my buddy have something? It shifts them around a little bit. So that's the version that I think is more okay, is to ask more broadly if they are aware of any opportunities. But asking about the company or the person themselves, it just again, it's the sort of thing that will come up naturally if they think that you're a good fit for a job. Um, but asking more broadly can sometimes expand and get them to think about other areas that they might not have after the initial, conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
Going. Then it might be natural.
Yeah. It's a great question. Don't speak poorly of yourself or others. Don't try to sell yourself. This is not like a strict job interview, and you're not trying to like make it seem like you're the best thing ever and they need to hire you. This is again, this is relationship building, this is connection building. Do not look at your phone unless there's like some kind of emergency. That's just that's a no-no. And don't talk only about yourself. Be asking questions about the person, about their work, their company, their background, all of that. Post meeting, send a thank you note within a day. Complete any tasks you agreed upon. So sending a resume, a copy of your resume or CV, sharing a paper you wrote, whatever, and follow up as appropriate. So if you agreed that they were going to like connect you with someone, you could follow up within 1 to 2 weeks, to just check in on that. If you're going to be collaborating with them on something, then you check in obviously regularly for that. If you're applying for a job at their company, especially one that they referred you to, follow up and let them know once you've submitted the job application. Definitely let people know if you get a job that they have referred you to. Um, Let us know too, like if you've met with one of us and then you end up, this is the funny thing about career services, but I don't know where most of my students have gone off to. At some point, they just stopped coming in for appointments, and I hope that they went on to get good jobs, or I'll read about them on LinkedIn or something, and I'll be like, oh, that's where they ended up. Cool. But yeah.
For us to for you to remember us as well. That's why we are constantly approaching you. So mutually, it really takes multiple touching points to get to know each other. To follow up.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
I touch base once or twice a year just to kind of maintain the connection and base that off of what the things that you kind of connected with them, like what the connection basis was. So if you were networking with someone and it was more about like your shared interest in a certain kind of topic, if you publish a paper, send it to them. Say, hey, I got this paper published. I thought you'd like to know, or you'd like to read it or something. If it's someone that you were networking with to, again, get a job, let them know once you've gotten the job and maybe follow up, 6 months or so, let them know you're still in the job, let them know you're doing well, that kind of thing. If there's people that you met at a conference, next time you go to that conference, reach out and see if they're going to go too, and see if you can grab like coffee or lunch or something, or just say hi. Find those spaces where you cohabitate in order to keep the connection alive. Yeah.
If you don't have like a specific purpose to touch base with people, how do you reach to them? A specific purpose.
It depends a little bit on kind of the person. It depends on how well you connected initially. Some people, again, not all connections initially are going to be useful. It's not going to be one that you're going to maintain long term. You'll kind of learn how to develop because there will be ones that it makes more sense to keep in touch with, that there is more of a purpose to keep in touch with. There's people I've connected with who maybe we had a great conversation, but our professional paths have diverged in such a way that like I don't like update them on stuff. I don't necessarily reach out to them. They're still kind of part of my network, but they're not the people that are going to be the most kind of in my circle or in my orbit.
But if you want to touch base with someone, but you don't have like any, sorry,
Oh,
research or anything to share.
then you can just say, hey, I wanted to check in. I was thinking about you the other day, wanted to check in, see how things are going with you. Just a brief kind of thing like that. Yeah.
Yes, see you.
Yeah.
So many other people saying that, they were contacted by others, just saying, what about you? I just want to check in. Simple touching points make a huge, huge difference. Sometimes without purpose, actually, make the relationship more lasting and more sincere.
All right. So we are going to jump over. May's going to close out the presentation and give kind of personal examples of how this has worked.
Yes, I first want to ask how many people came to our networking workshop in March? No? Okay, that's great. I shared my testimony over there, but here I add more content. First of all, I would like to say, networking is so important, and it is not one workshop that can help you to achieve your goal. We just need to continuously to learn and to practice. And I also want to say, maybe so for some PhD and postdoc, they are naturally good at networking. But most PhD and postdoc, based on my observations, they are not so good at networking. That's a skill that is, more or less underdeveloped. And for myself, it's the same. When I was a PhD student, I remember kind of toward to the end of my PhD program, I had a meeting with my PI, my advisor, one-on-one, and he said, May, you need to show your visibility. And he talked it so serious that it caught my attention. And I realized that I have been spending a lot of time doing research, generating good data, publishing paper, and I have been attending our department events. But I was not that talkative. I was not paying a lot of attention to really build relationship with them. So I was more or less like invisible in my department. And that's why my PhD advisor suggested to me, May, you need to show your visibility. And start then, I become more intentional in showing my visibility and building my network. Not other people know about me. And time fast forward, I did a postdoc for 3 years, and then I worked in industry. And in my first industry job, I worked as a scientist over there. I remember at that time, our team is expanding and we need to hire another person. And we had 3 people come on site for the interview. And all of those 3 people know me before they apply this job. And I remember my manager at that time, he said very proudly and in a very funny way, he said, May, everybody knows you. And that sentence also caught my attention because I see the huge difference between then and now. I see my transformation. So I want to share my story. Again, when I am toward the end of my PhD, I was looking at my professional network. I only know my PhD advisor, my lab mates, and maybe my committee faculty members, and maybe some of the faculty in my department, not all of them, only some, and maybe some of my close collaborators. And that's it. I don't have any other professional network. That's less than 10 people if I count. And again, I become intentional in building my network. Whenever I meet some new people, I at least connect with them in my LinkedIn. For some of them, when there is a good fit, I'll follow up. And gradually, today, when I check my LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, I think I had more than 1,400 connections now, I think. And I didn't add people randomly. Only when I meet them, or they ask very specifically, say they read my profile, they want to connect with me, then I will connect. So every one of them is quite intentional here. And my network has helped me so much, so much. I told some of you that after my postdoc, this is my fourth job. And every job I got it through some sort of networking. I still need to do the job application, but networking has been playing a very important role in this process. And among my network, some of them are my mentors. I still follow up with them, once every few months is to have lunch together. I will seek guidance, seek their input to maintain this type of relationship. So again, being intentional is very important. Some of them become our clients. In my last job, I worked in a startup company. My role is to acquire clients, and I got clients from my network. So important. When I hire the assistant director, I post this job opportunity in my LinkedIn network. I get so many referrals. Many people approach me to ask information about this job opportunity. Again, we hired Kyle in the end, but still, our network is a great strategy when it comes to the hiring process. So how did this transformation happen? When I think back, I think two things made a huge difference. One is I changed my mindset. I changed the way how I think of others and how I think of myself. And then the second is I practice, I fail, I practice again, is I learned some of the networking skills. So I'm going to share all those. First is about mindset, understand others. I think before I'm really afraid of networking because I think I'm just a graduate student. I do not know that much. Other people are so senior, they know so much. I'm afraid to talk to them. However, later, the more and more, I think we are all humans. They are not going to bite me. I don't need to be afraid of them. We're all equal. This is a very simple mindset, but it made a huge difference to me. And then they are probably nervous too. Again, I don't think there are many people that are so natural and so good at networking. So they are probably also nervous when it comes to networking. So why not be the first one to introduce myself to them, to make this process easier to both sides, be a little bit more proactive. And the bold thing is what I realize more and more nowadays is nobody can do the work alone. They are also looking for partners, collaborators, and network. They have the intention to network with you too. So again, this type of mindset really helped me to make networking a little bit easier. And another thing is everybody is very unique. They have a unique story. They have a unique experience. They have their unique talent. They have their unique things they want to pursue. So being curious just to get to know more, a little bit more about themselves, to hear their story, and then make the conversation so much easier, the networking so much sweeter, and then understand myself. I think one thing that I'm afraid before about networking is I'm afraid of making mistake. I'm not good at networking, so I may say things wrong. I may make this relationship awkward. And it's okay. I admit that I'm not perfect. Yes, I'm not perfect. That's okay. I'm going to make mistake and that's okay. But I trust I can learn. I can grow in this process. Just like I'm doing an experiment. I can learn from my research. And in networking, the same thing. I'm going to fail, make mistake, but then I'm going to learn from it and grow from it. And I trust I can do that. And also I'm believing I can bring something unique to the table. Even though I'm just a graduate student, I have my unique experience, background, talent, interests, and that's things that make myself unique. And I can bring that uniqueness into the table. And again, nowadays, I'm more thinking there are things I want to achieve in my life, and I need others to help me to achieve that goal because I cannot do it alone. That's why it made me more motivated to pursue networking. So those type of mindsets are very simple, but it made a huge difference. To me, it helped me to realize many people, they are looking forward to network. So it's very natural, very normal, and everybody is unique, has a unique story. get to know that person, and don't be afraid to make mistake, learn from it, and your networking skills will grow in this process as well. Now I'm going to share some practical tips when I do networking. And again, there are many different types of networking. Some of them are more targeted, some of them are more spontaneous, as we talked about before. Not as just going to a conference as an example here. I know many of you had the opportunity to go to conferences. So before networking, really spend a lot of time to do your homework, to do your research, to understand about the conference. What are the topics? What are the conference is about, who are going to go to the conference, what are the background of those people, what are they research on. You ask yourself a lot of questions, you gather those information. So do your homework. This is so important. And then understand your goals, what do you want to get out of the networking. I think we talked about before, so I'm not going to emphasize again. And then request meeting even before you go to that conference. So this way, you make your conference more effective. How many of you have set up meetings before you go to a conference? Raise your hand if you did that. So I saw a few. So excellent. I have to be frank, I never did that in my PhD, and I had opportunity to go to at least one conference every year. And now thinking back, I really wish I did something different so that I can really fully use that opportunity to establish my network, to deepen my network. So I highly recommend you to do that from now on. And here I added persistency. Because again, when you send your request, maybe when you send it for the first time, they do not know you at all. They are probably not going to respond to you. It takes a couple of times, couple of touching points for that people to start to recognize your name, to recognize you as a person, and then they will start to respond. Again, here there are a lot of tricks. For example, you can ask your PhD advisor to make connections. Using referrals is going to increase the likelihood to get reply, things like that. But showing persistency is very important here. During the conversation, introduce yourself. Here is very important to think from their perspective. What do they want to know about myself? And that is going to affect how I'm going to introduce myself. And that's very important. It's like writing your resume. It's not only to talk about, okay, I did this, I did that, I did that. It's more thinking about from hiring manager's perspective. What are they looking for from the candidates? Similar concept here. From others' perspective, what do they want to know about me? And then when you introduce yourself, say those things. And ask questions. Networking is really about having conversations, and how to have conversations is learn to ask questions and make that person to share more. And usually when other people is sharing more about themselves, it helps you to build the connection and build the relationship. People will feel good when they share about themselves. So your responsibility is to ask questions. And based on what they share, you ask more questions and make it natural. And this requires practice. I cannot do that very well in the beginning, but nowadays, through many practice, I can navigate the conversation much more smoothly than before. So practice. Later on, we have the networking sessions. So practice that. Ask questions, not other people to share. Then ask follow-up questions. And at the right time, share more about yourself. And then other people will ask you questions. So the conversation will go on. And you are going to, once you have a nice, pleasant conversation, you build the trust. You build relationship. And then at some point, exchange contact information. Maybe we can see, can we connect in LinkedIn and send the request on site, and you get the connection, or you can do it afterwards. And you can also say, could we follow up in a few months, things like that. Yeah, and it's okay if it is not a good fit, and totally okay. So our title is really say, connect with purpose. You want to establish meaningful connections. There are people you are going to meet who is not a good fit, and it's okay to, to pause and move on and talk to the right people. It's really about finding the good fit. After that, I think Kyle also mentioned that you connect in LinkedIn, you check their profile, you check their website, you basically learn more about that person and then help you to evaluate how much time and effort am I going to invest in that person to maintain the relationship. Some of them you may not maintain that strongly, but some others you may want to set up follow-up meetings because it's a tier one in your network, things like that. And follow up, Kai also mentioned that maintain interactions. Again, different tiers of the relationship require different level of your time and energy investment. So you can think about that. Again, it's okay if people reject you. Yeah, I know it hurts, especially as PhD students. I think sometimes if they didn't reply to our email, we may overthink. Oh, did I do bad? Am I a bad person? Things like that. Really now start to tell yourself it's okay to get rejected. That just means you haven't find the right person yet. You haven't find the good fit yet. Once you find the good fit, the conversation, the relationship will build. Yeah. Okay, so again, it's like doing an experiment. You grow in this process. Every time after a networking event, you reflect, what are some of the things I have done well? I will continue to do that. What are some of the things I haven't done so well? What are some of the conversations maybe I said not so appropriately? Then I will change. I will say, next time I will say this way. You have a new hypothesis. And then you are going to test it again in the next conversation. So the more you practice like this, the more tips you will get, and the better you will be at networking. So here again, some of the advice: start now. I think Kyle also said, or restart now if you have already been doing that. Be patient because every relationship just takes time. Be patient in this process. Stay curious. Again, use this opportunity to learn more about that person. That's their story, their work, their industry. Networking is an investment in your business, in your personal business here. It takes time, but when it's done appropriately, it can yield great results for the years to come. And I know some of the people who are in the job market, and some of you may find networking so hard. You haven't seen the results yet. And I want to say something here. Again, when you are in the job market, really leverage your network asset. You want to let your network know I'm in the job market. You can reconnect to them. Again, when you reach out to them, you can say, oh, I just want to use this opportunity to reconnect. You don't have to mention that you want to look for jobs, things like that. But as the conversation going, it will be natural to let them know you are in the job market. But your goal is to let your network know you are in the job market. So when they see job opportunities, they will pass the information to you. So now, because you don't have that time to invest to do a kind of like random networking or build up your network, you want to do more targeted networking. So when you apply job in a certain company, you can do it more purposefully to network with people in that company. Again, there are tips involved in that. And if you are in that step, we can talk more to have a one-to-one. But here, the concept here is you want to do more targeted networking at this step. And also you can network throughout the process before you apply this job, after you submit the job application, before you have the interview, after you have your interview. Networking can happen throughout the process. And once you get the job, continue to network because that's also the foundation for you to have continuous career development. And if you haven't seen results yet, two things I want to share is also be persistent, because again, networking takes time to see the fruits. And also rethink about the strategy Kyle shared before. Why do you want to network? Did you identify the right people to network? Did you using the right platform to find the network? Did you using the right methods to talk to establish the network, to send the request and to introduce yourself, things like that? And yeah, so I will stop here, and I really want to encourage you during the winter break, before our next workshop, we have about 1 month time. You can make some smart goals for yourself. We talked about being specific, measurable, realistic, time-bound, things like that. Here are some suggestions here. For example, again, you can tailor it to your needs. Maybe you can attend a networking event in WashU. In WashU campus, we have so many networking events every day happening in different places. Pay attention to find some of those and go to one of those events. Maybe reach out to 20 people in your network. And you could start with your existing network, with someone you met in your department, and then gradually transition to LinkedIn Code Reach. And with a goal to maybe set up at least one coffee chat or networking lunch. You probably need to reach out more in order to have that one meeting secured. Maybe set up a one-to-one coaching appointment with our coaches to specifically discuss your situation and how we can build a better networking strategies. So I will stop there and we can leave some time for Q&A. I know we have diverse audience, so we made it trying to cover different aspects, but if you have any specific questions, we can pause and do a Q&A before we go to our networking session. Okay, cover.
Just when reach out. What was your kind of success rate? Like, because someone shared that no one flies, and I really like go into that. I think it was you, right? No one's like following up with me, and it's like, okay. I'm just curious, like, how do you think, like, what's the percentage of do you even get the prize?
I had like not for necessarily like job seeking networking. I had pretty high, I guess, reply rate, but mostly because I did not use LinkedIn at all for networking when I was in my graduate program. I used social media and conferences and my peers and my professors. So if there was a really cool article that came out and I just looked up the people who wrote it and went to my advisors or my friends and was like, does anyone know this person? And a lot of times they would, or they would know someone who knows someone and would be in touch.
Yeah, referrals is a great strategy. And I would say also for me, I also LinkedIn cold outreach, I didn't do that much. My strategy is more about attending in-person events and conferences and make an initial touch point, even though it's like only 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then I will follow up after the meeting and then set up like a 30 minute or 1 hour. And my success rate is actually very, very high. And the reason is because I do my homework before I reach out to them. And I set up a meeting in that conference. And I know my why. I know kind of the common interest here, and I make it very clear to both sides. So they are very much willing to take the follow-up meeting. So my suggestion to you is trying to be present. The initial in-person connection is very important, even though it's only a few minutes. And then you can follow up. And in the follow-up, make sure it's clear why this meeting is going to be mutually beneficial. It's not only going to take your time to help me. What are some of the things you can contribute to the conversation? Yeah, it could be your research, right? You are a PhD, you are doing like very advanced research, and that could be something that be appealing to them. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can transition, since we have new folks coming, we'll transition to Ishita. She is going to lead our networking session. I hope everybody can stay and use this opportunity to really get to know a little bit more about our peers here and trying to make some unique, connections here. Again, the in-person connections is so important. and you never know who is going to help you in your network. So cherish every opportunity here, and everyone can be a great asset in your network.